Okay. Hello, hello, hello. And welcome to episode 7 of the Core Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron, as always. And I know I said I'd be getting some other people on here soon, but I guess that'll have to wait for next year. That being said, I'll be just talking about a lot of different things. Um, this episode's about the new year, as well as this year, honestly. Just wanted to kind of reflect on this year as well as the past and other years to just kind of give a rundown of how things have been. Um, and is and I also want to talk about the potential for next year, for obvious reasons. New year, not necessarily new me, but we make do with what we've got. Um, and yeah, well, I I believe there's a lot of value in taking some time to reflect, taking some time to look back at your experiences, who you used to be as a person, and yeah, the things that you've done, the things that you've said. I find it to be very valuable. And yeah, recently I was fortunate enough to have a conversation with two of my close friends. And something they said just really struck me in that moment, and I did not have a thing to say. I was really just dumbfounded for words, and it's a really simple thing that they said. Honestly, what they said was that, compared to, well, I'm not saying it like verbatim, but I'm just saying it generally to just get the idea and to get the point across. But we were just talking about what we used to be like, just for the context of the conversation. We were just talking about our past, what we used to be like, and how we've grown. And what I said was like, I don't think that I've changed that much compared to what I used to be like. And straight away they were like, no, actually you've changed a lot. Like a lot. um and and yeah, that was it. That was all they said, pretty much, that I had changed a lot compared to what I used to be like. And that kind of spurred on this topic, at least for this episode, of why I'm doing a lot of reflection for this episode and why I decided for it to be this thing for the episode. But yeah, that's kind of why I wanted to talk about reflection and potential for next year. But yeah, enough on the why. But in case you are wondering why, that's why. But yeah, reflection. Um, like I said, it's pretty valuable. Not everyone does it, but it absolutely is so important. It's the whole thing about learning from your failures, and yeah, learning from the mistakes that you've made in your lifetime, throughout your entire life, and throughout your at least conscious life. As toddlers, I don't know if we intentionally learn things. It's all purely by instinct and whatever else. Yeah, so this year, man, geez, what a year, huh? I'm going to assume this year's been quite an interesting year for yourself. It's been definitely uh, one of the tougher years to go through for myself. Both in a good light and in a darker light or a darker sense. There were definitely some darker moments this year for myself. Very cynical moments, very tragic moments. Um, yeah, and they were definitely tough, definitely hard times in life that you know people just have to go through. And well, there was also the other end of the spectrum where I definitely did have one of the most let's just say amazing. Yeah, I definitely think that this year was an amazing year, both for myself and for other people around me. Um, and well, despite the hardships, despite the challenges, and despite all the negative circumstances, this year was actually really great. I I learned a lot. I mean, after going through a lot, I learned a lot afterwards, um, which should be a given. But I guess maybe if it isn't, then well, that's unfortunate. Um, but yeah, no. So this year has definitely been tough for a variety of reasons. Um, there were definitely a lot of challenges, but then there was a lot of self discovery and self development and a lot of understanding that's had to mainly do with myself. I man, it it was an interesting year. It was an interesting time going through this path of discovering myself and who I am again, and yeah, being more expressive with it, being more open with it, more transparent, and I mean, here I am doing a podcast. Here I am being expressive. Here I am being open. Um, Definitely took me far, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for all of it, the good and the bad. And yeah, this year, I mean, although it's coming to an end, it's been such a great year. Yeah, like I said, despite all the adversity, it's been such a great year. And continues to be a great year. It's not over yet, but yeah, this year continues to be a great year. And I'm sure I can say for other people that it's been a good year for them as well, despite their challenges and despite their own hardships in their own lives. There's been progression in aspects. I mean, I can say it for myself as well, that there's been progression in aspects in my life and relationships that have been rekindled, which has been such a joy. Really, it's been amazing to kind of reignite the flame of a friendship and be able to live out those experiences that was once held so dear to my heart, and same for them. But I'm sure this person knows. If they're listening, they know. um, but yeah, no, it's been such a joy, such a blessing to be able to reconnect and rediscover that relationship. Not only with this one person in particular, but with other people as well that I'm trying to reach out to. It's been It's been wonderful. And yeah, well, I guess on this year in particular, I've gone through a lot of change, both for good and for bad. Um, Mainly the bad first, and the good came after. But it's still what it is. Um, yeah, a lot of experiences that I'm thankful for. As much as people would say I'm crazy to be thankful for um, death, let's say. Um, yeah, like it's hard to see it that way. That's for sure. Um, but I'm not alone in saying that when you see a life struggle so much to live in those moments, it does become hard to watch. Very distressing to witness. Um, and I did become spiteful after witnessing that death in particular, that passing. Um, I did become spiteful, and that was a change for the worst. But I believe it was a necessary change. Um, and it's one that I don't think could have turned out any differently. I personally believe it wasn't supposed to turn out any differently than it had. So, well, that's that really. But yeah, no, I was definitely very spiteful. Not really towards anyone, but mainly towards the world, towards God. You know, I mean, if you're religious, then you'll understand. If not, then don't worry. But I was very spiteful towards the world and towards God, about death, about suffering, about struggle, about all the negative things you can really think about. And a lot of it was, well, the consequence of that experience, of the witness of that experience, and of that tragedy. Um, and like I said, it's a hard one to be thankful for, and it's very hard to admit that. And I admit that I still struggle saying that I'm thankful for it. Like, it's really, oh man, it's a gut wrencher, you know. But I have to be thankful for it. I both have to, and I both want to be thankful for it. I'm still like in the gray area, on the in between, but it is that's how it is. And yeah, like what I learned from that was, at least from my spiteful nature or behavior in that period, um, that it wasn't doing anyone any good being the way that I was. It wasn't helpful. And another thing that I learned from that was, I was very like, an old defense mechanism of mine kicked in, where something traumatic happens and I close off every everyone and everything. Um like, all my emotions just shut off, and I am purely living off of the highs of life in the moment. And it is very, very, very dangerous. It could have turned out a lot worse than what it did. Um, Thankfully, nothing really happened, which is good. Which is good. Um, but yeah, no, things could have turned out a lot worse. Thankfully, it didn't. But the progression kind of starts around when I made that realization that, I wasn't being helpful. Um, Although I wasn't really dishing out my frustration onto anyone, I mean, it was a lot worse. I was dishing it out onto myself as if there was something else that I could have done differently, but there wasn't. And after making all these realizations and understanding that this is meant to be, like, this is probably what had to happen. I didn't know why at the time, but that's what had to happen. And then death comes around the corner again. Not in someone close or anything, but in another family, an extended family. And I I wasn't in that spiteful mentality. But instead I was in a different headspace of there are lessons to be learned right now, and I don't want to disconnect from what's happening right now, but there's something I can learn from this. And there was. And I guess what I learned from it, after thinking about it, was making connections. And making sure that people are okay, whether they're close to me or they're not. And well, yeah, I had to see these things. I had to see death twice. Not I guess in front of me. Once in front of me, but the second time was more of like afterwards of the death. But I learned that it's scary as well. Death is very scary. And that I need to make sure I make the most of my time with everyone. Death could come around the corner at any time, any given moment. So I need to treasure the time I have with everyone as if it's my last day alive. And I do my best. Some days I'm not doing my best. Most days I try. But yeah, to some degree I try to live my life out as if it's the last day I'm alive. But not be reckless with it, of course. Like, I'm not going to go out on a drinking spree or go GTA style and start hijacking some cars or whatever. Like, no, I'm not going to be reckless, but I'm going to be in a state of, if it's my last day, then I'm okay to be gone tomorrow. Which is a very profound way of thinking, and it's pretty surreal to be thinking like that. But of course I have goals and I have dreams and whatever. But I needed to make sure that was the kind of mentality I had with the life that I live and hopefully continue to live, right? Because I say for myself, I can only speak for myself. But I know, at least for myself, that I definitely still had trouble opening up to my friends about a lot of different things. I mean, even these days, I still have trouble opening up to them about certain things, which is fine. That's okay, obviously. But I don't want it to be that way. I want to make sure that I can be open with my friends and talk to them about everything. I talk to them about like 90 to 95% of the stuff, but that 5%, it's not there yet. Has nothing to do with them, but it's more on me. But regardless, yeah, and there have been a lot of revelations that have come to me through these experiences of death, of passing, and having that thought, and kind of putting fear into the mix of things, like what am I afraid of, and what am I afraid of happening. And obviously it's like, not being able to do certain things, or not being able to achieve certain things, or stuff like that. But I had to make sure that I am taking steps closer towards my dreams and my goals and whatever. At least, I mean, I'd like to say every day, but then I'd be lying, because it's not every day that I do make those steps. Only once every 2 days, every 3 days, I'm making progress in becoming the kind of person I'd like to be, and what I hope that is aligns with what God wants me to be. And yeah, like my goals as well. I try to take steps to get to my goals, obviously, as how it should be, taking steps towards your goals and your dreams. Yeah, like I've gone through the bad change, and that's mostly the bad change, the whole cynical stuff, and yeah, but I'm leading in towards the good change of this year, and learning all these different things, right? I was able to kind of take these revelations in and understand them and apply them in my life. And not entirely, but definitely like piece by piece, I'm like applying them in my life still, after like 6 months of understanding this stuff, or 6 months of this stuff coming into my life. Then I'm like able to still, throughout the 6 months, put things into my life piece by piece. And yeah, I'm still in the process of these revelations, and it's definitely not instant. It still takes a lot of time, still takes a lot of effort to make good habits out of the things that you learn, and all the suffering as well. And yeah, well, so the good change involved, like what I said earlier, just understanding myself, being more expressive, being more open, and being able to know myself to the best degree possible, and being able to kind of give out that positive energy that I always felt like I should have been doing. And it's been wonderful, I say this to myself a lot, that this year has been the saddest year of my life, but it's been the happiest year of my life at the same time. It's a very interesting thought, to know that. And I can say it with like no doubt that it definitely has been the saddest year of my life, as well as the happiest year of my life. Um, sadness in the form of death, and sadness in the form of conflict, and of relationships crumbling, um, but also happiness and joy in the rekindling of relationships, and the openness and expressiveness, and the beauty of the relationships that I have, and the beauty of the people that are around me, and the beauty of life, and kind of being aware of these things and thankful for these things, and you know reflecting, like what I'm doing right now, like being able to reflect on myself, not only this year but on myself throughout my entire life. And I mean, yeah, going to that, like when my friends said that I changed a lot, like at first I didn't believe them. I'm like, what? No way I changed like that much. I feel like there's no drastic change that happened with me, or whatever. um Truth be told, there was a drastic change. And like I said, change doesn't happen like instantly. It doesn't happen, like it doesn't go 0 to 100 in an instant, right? If you're going 0 to 100 in a car, it takes at least a couple seconds. Even 0 to 60 takes a couple seconds. um and yeah, like when I kind of took time to process that and what they said, um in truth, I did change. And it's a very different reality to the kind of person I am right now, which is amazing. Because yeah, after looking back to who I was and what I used to be like, it's very interesting to think that I used to be what I used to be. And it was mainly because of the life that I lived, of course, the environment I was in, and um, my upbringing. And yeah, well, I used to be, well, for context, so growing up, I was not involved, but I was presented a lot of conflict in the family. Not in the form of physical violence, of course, thankfully, but just a lot of verbal conflict that had to do with a lot of external factors of our family. But I was aware of this at a very young age. Um, and growing up, it was still there. And what happened was, as a defense mechanism, I kind of closed off my emotions. I closed off my being, and my personality. At least the like a portion of my personality and a portion of like who I was being closed off in like the vault, like in my head, or the vault in my heart, or whatever. Just like certain parts of me were just being detached from who I am and who I was in the moment. And I'll be honest, it's not exactly the healthiest approach to trauma or whatever. But at the time, it was probably the only approach that I could have gone with. And thinking back, it was probably the approach that was meant to happen. Like that was the path that I was meant to go. Um, but it's only in hindsight that you realize these things, right? But yeah, no. So in high school, even in primary school, really, I was very closed off, um, very guarded, in terms of like who I was close to, who I would open up to, and who I would be be my 100% self around. Now I can say that only for like a very few people I was ever like my 100% or close to my 100% self with. Um, one of which I'm trying to reconnect with recently, which is awesome, man. Great guy, dude. Um, I don't know if he listens to the podcast that often, but you know what? It's cool. um, but yeah, no, I was very guarded, very, very close minded as well. I was not willing to. Well, actually, no, I take that back. I was actually a lot more open minded then because I'd never thought about the consequences. Um, believe it or not, right? If you know what I'm like these days, I'm very different, according to according to my friends, and I believe them now after thinking about it. But yeah, so after like thinking about how different I was, oh man, it's crazy. But I mean, at the time, I was also like, puberty, hormones, and whatever else, being a juvenile, um, all of those kinds of things also, I guess, comes into play and factors into why I was the way that I was. Um, but yeah, no, I'm thankful for it. Thankful for all those positive and negative experiences throughout my entire life. As grim as it sounds, it I feel like that's the way that it has to be. That we should look at life that way. That we are thankful for the good and the bad. I still try to apply that to myself as much as possible in any kind of circumstance that I can. Uh, Mainly because most of the bad stuff that happen in life, in our lives, that we can learn something from them. That there is some sort of lesson that we can learn from these bad things. And for learning stuff from the good stuff that happens, trying to learn something from the good that happens in our life, I feel like the lessons there are to enjoy them, to treasure those moments, at least in general, right? I'm sure there are a lot more specific lessons to be learned from those experiences, those good moments, those good memories. And yeah, in general, what I try to learn from the good moments is to treasure them, right? Because if it is your last day alive, then hopefully and truthfully, you gotta treasure all these good experiences, because the good experiences make up, the better portion of your life. At least that's what you want to remember when you're going through your life. Because I believe it's really sad to to think about regrets, when you think back on your life. And if you're thinking back on your life and you're going through the negative experiences, oh dear Lord, that's dreadful. And that's not a pain that I want to go through. That's not a pain that I want to experience. Um, and yeah, so after my friends were telling me that I was very different compared to what I used to be like in high school, and after giving it some thought and after realizing how right they were, um, it made me become more thankful, more thankful that they even pay attention to what I used to be like more than I did with myself. Or maybe from their perspective, they got to have a better sense of it because they're looking from a different angle. But, nonetheless, when someone notices change with you or with me, or, whether it be a minor detail or a major detail, major aspect or minor aspect or whatever, when people notice change, um and when they acknowledge that change, it's mainly people that care about you, mainly people that really try to understand you. And I know that they've put in their time and effort to understand me and to get close to me and to um yeah, to be around me and all that good stuff, right? It makes me more thankful and more appreciative of them and who they are. And yeah, like it goes to show that the change that happens is noticeable. Because oh man, I didn't even notice it. Like I was in disbelief when they were saying like, "Oh man, you're actually really different." I'm like, "What? No way." I was truly in disbelief. I'm like, "Man, no. No way, dude. There's no way I'm that different." Different to the point that they would, they would stand their ground like, "No, you're actually very different from what you from back then, from certain years ago. You're very different." I'm like, "What? Really?" Oh, well, yeah, and after giving it some thought, yeah, I'm very different. And yeah, it's such a blessing to have people like that in my life, and I'm very thankful. I'm very fortunate to have people like that in my life. And it was I'm going to assume that I'm not going to see them until the new year. So, you know, um if that's my last moment with them for this year, then by all means I'll let that be the thing that closes off the year for us. And it was a very eye-opening eye-opening experience, let's say, or moment to think about. And yeah, it was beautiful. It was beautiful, that little moment there, because that shows that they truly care and that they truly um keep their eye out and pay attention. Not that they never did, but it's just what do you call it? It's just evidence of their efforts, I guess. I'm sure there's a better way to put it, but as of right now, I can't really think. Not straight, at least. I can't think straight. But yeah. Uh, and well, yeah. So going back to how different I was, it's also such a interesting thing to reflect on how different I used to be, and I believe it's a good thing, to look back on who I was and how far I've come, and it makes it or it makes me feel that I can do anything and everything as long as I put my mind, my heart, and my soul into it. I feel like it's very possible to do a lot of things. Knowing how far I've come. And I feel like maybe for you as well, for all the challenges you've faced. If you think about it all, like everything from childhood to now, if you think about everything, I personally feel like I can do a lot. Like I feel like I can do a lot on my own, but then when I think about being with other people, I feel like I can take on the world. Like knowing that I have people that support me and knowing that they all care for me so deeply and are so invested in me so deeply, and want the best for me, like so genuinely want the best for me. um, and I'm so thankful for them, so thankful for the support that they offer and the support that they give. And yeah, with all of that, I feel like an unstoppable force. And yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to know the change, because I feel like at the time as well, when I was younger, God, I sound old. Back in my day. Yeah, well, when I was younger, I don't think I mean, of course I was young, so I wasn't really thinking about friendships like this or thinking about relationships like this. But yeah, having supportive people is definitely such a huge thing. I mean, definitely my friend groups were supportive, but there was something else there that I needed in my life. But you know what? That's that. Um, with reflection, I feel like that's a good chunk already of the episode. um, but definitely there's gonna be more episodes like this where I reflect on a lot of different aspects of my life and reflect on what I used to be like. And yeah, like there it's a lot deeper than what I have said. Definitely there's more to yeah, there's definitely more to what I used to be like. It's not so shallow as to say that I was rebellious, or it's so shallow to say that I was a troublemaker, or it's a lot deeper than that, with a lot of deeper reasonings and um, motives, or motivations as to why I was the way that I was. But yeah, in terms of reflection, I feel like that's mostly it, or at least that's mostly what's important. Um, but yeah, going on to like the next half of what I wanted to talk about was potential. The potential for next year. Um, there's there's a lot of potential for next year. There's a lot of potential for good, but keep in mind there's also a lot of potential for bad to happen. Um, because with a lot of good comes some bad, and with a lot of bad comes some good. Um, I said this before, but a lot of these things come and go in waves, right? You'll get a wave of negative stuff, and some good stuff will come after. You'll get a wave of good stuff, and some negative stuff will come after. It's just how the chaos of the world works, or at least the chaos of life. And I feel like that's how God operates. I'm not entirely sure. I'm not certain. I'm not going to say that that's how it definitively is, but at least the way I see it, that there's some sort of pattern to how God operates and how he executes things. And yeah, there's some sort of order within all the chaos that we don't really see. Um, and oh man, there's this line from from a TV show. I can't know. I'm gonna butcher it, but I'll talk about it another time. But pretty much, if we think about a painting, let's think about a modern painting. Like a one in the frame, or one in a canvas or whatever. If you're looking at a painting from the back, and you're watching the artist paint, you're just watching the artist put paint on a canvas, but you're not seeing the paint on the canvas, right? You're just watching the artist do something to the canvas while you're watching from behind. Let's continue this visual exercise, okay? And this is kind of how I imagine uh, life and how I imagine God working. So let's say the painting is our life, and we view the painting from behind, or we have a certain angle from the painting that we don't really get to see the whole beauty of our lives. We don't get to see the full picture because we don't get to go around the painting and view the painting from every angle. We can only view the painting from a certain angle. And God is the artist, and he's the one that puts the painting onto the canvas. Or he's the one that paints on the canvas. And yeah, we are the canvas, we are the painting as a whole. And God as the artist is, he's allowed to get up, he's allowed to kind of go around the whole thing and see it and view it from different angles, different perspectives, and we can only view it from a certain angle. But I believe that in good time we're able to kind of learn things, and we're able to take steps towards different angles, and we're able to see the painting in a different angle, and we're able to see the painting in different perspectives and different lights and different shades, and we can see it under certain kinds of light. Like if light hits it at a certain angle, like there's a lot of different things, right? Sorry if this is complicated, but yeah, that's how I imagine God operates, and that's how I imagine our lives are. That for the time being, we can only see it from a certain perspective, from a certain angle. But God can see it in every angle, under every light, and under any and every circumstance. But for us, in the moment, we can only see it from a certain point of view. But then, as time goes on and we learn things and we experience things, we're able to see it in a different light, in a different perspective. And I don't know, I think it's, I feel like it's true, to myself at least. It might not be true for yourself, it might not be true, or it might be true, sorry, for others. But yeah, there's so much for our lives. Like I said, there's so much good, not only for just next year, honestly, there's so much for our lives in the near and distant future. And kind of the way we get to live beyond our lives as well, like the memories that we create with other people, and the memories that get carried on and through generations, like us as people, we get to live beyond our lifetimes. Think about like musicians, or like those classical composers that lived in, I don't even know how long ago, like a couple hundred years ago, like on those old school pianos that sounded really odd. Not to be rude or disrespectful, but some of those instruments just sounded really odd. Well, maybe in the time they were just, that's what was poppin' at the time. These days, because there's a wide array of instruments, very interesting. But regardless, yeah, like how music gets carried on generations and generations. And yeah, we can, like, despite the length of our life, we can still live beyond that, and we can still impact the world beyond our lifetime. And I believe that there's something beautiful about that. And the fact that we can do that, like, with barely any resources at all, like, with just using the internet. I mean, with just this podcast as well, now that I'm thinking about it, like, we can totally have an impact on the world. Like, people in general with just podcasts, they can make an impact on the world. And that episode, or those episodes, or that series that they've done is out there in the world for an eternity now, or forever, for however long our world lasts. um it's there, and it will, and it has the potential to last beyond lifetimes. And there's so much potential good in that, there's so much potential good in the impactful things that are out there on the internet and out there in the world with people. And yeah, next year I believe, for at least for myself, I believe a lot of good things to happen. um it's not some sort of wishful thinking. I'm not going to lie, when I say things like this, a lot of the time things come to pass. I can say for certain people that when I say things, they happen. But I do make general statements, so I mean that could be like cheating or something. But no, when I say things, for the most part, they happen. But of course, I don't know exactly what is going to happen. But yeah, no, like, timing, the timing of when I say something happens in a certain general time, and something does happen, it's just really funny to me. But no, definitely for next year, I believe that there's going to be a lot of good coming for everyone. um Whether it be at the very start of the year, or towards the middle, or towards the end of the year, but good is bound to come to anyone and everyone. But I will say that you must be prepared for hardship as well. And not to be naive, like, hardships won't come and challenges won't come your way. um and like I said, when good things come, bad things follow, and vice versa. When bad things come, good things follow. That's just how it happens. But the time frame, obviously, it's hard to gauge, and hard to make a definitive statement of it's meant to be like this and like that. It doesn't it doesn't work that way with life. But yeah, no, so next year, for myself and for everyone, I believe that good things will come. But be prepared for the hardships. Dear Lord. I know for myself, though, next year is going to be a tough year. Uh, but I believe it'll be a great year. Like, for me, this year, I will forever remember this year as the saddest year and the happiest year of my life. And next year, I will predict that it'll be the greatest year, but it'll be the toughest year. Which makes me scared, of course, but it also makes me excited. And yeah, we'll see. I Man, I'm like at a loss for words when I think about next year, and when I reflect on everything. It's truly amazing. And I hope that, I hope that you guys follow me throughout that entire journey. I hope that that this podcast outlasts my lifetime, and people are able to look back at this and able to kind of appreciate who I am and who I was, I guess, if you're looking at this in a different time. Well, yeah. This is all great. And as much as oh man, I'd actually love to continue this episode, but I believe it is a good time to end. I'm also getting really thirsty. I did already have lunch though, but that's okay. Yeah. Well, I believe this is a great time to call it an end. It is a bit of a longer episode. I didn't really have any questions planned, or I didn't really have a general idea. I mainly just came up with this not too long before I recorded this. So it's more of a, I'd say more of an more authentic than the other episodes, or more genuine than the other episodes. Not that they weren't, I mean, you know, but I feel like this was more, what do you call it? This one was more different to the other ones, for sure. I mean, yeah, this was mainly just talking away with whatever comes up in my head. But, you know, that's all cool. That's all fun. And I'll try to do more stuff like this, but I'll also try not to, like, ramble on too much. I tend to do that a lot. But yeah, that's all good. It's all fun. And it is time to call it an end to the episode. And I won't leave stuff up for my post-edit Aaron self, so I would like to say right now that I will be putting videos up on a different channel, on my gaming channel that I that I totally sacked off and I just left it in the mud. But I'll be putting out videos on that if you're interested on that kind of stuff, like watching me play some, I don't know, some stupid game or some fun game. Up to you though. Yeah, so I'll be leaving a link in the description for that channel, and I'll be leaving links in the description for other things, and you're welcome to check those out. You're welcome to support me. You're free to do whatever you want with those links. And I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I hope you all had a wonderful day, a wonderful year. I love you all. Take care. Hope you had a nice Christmas. And I hope you have a happy new year. I will talk to you all later. I love you, and goodbye.